Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another trek through Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We are on Volume 14, Chapter 8. And yes, pretty crazy little fight there. I will admit, as of the starting of the recording of this video, I have reached the point that I've seen the title for Chapter 10. So it's coming. It is coming. Now, the reason why I'm actually recording this very, very early. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm planning on trying something new for at least Chapter 10 and beyond then if the mods think it actually would work out. But I heard a lot of people saying that they wanted me to read a certain chapter, not live. I'm never going to do live. I'm sorry I can't do that because I can't watch chat while I'm reading and all that kind of stuff. And plus, I suck at reading on camera. Spoiler, if you guys see how many cuts are in my videos, that's usually because of pause or something I don't like, or because I mess up, and technically the bloopers. But no, I'm planning on actually doing a live reading on the spot while on camera. I don't know how it's going to turn out. It might be a complete and absolute mess as I'm going through it, and I go, never mind, I can't do this. But typically I read, I take notes, I break down certain things that repeat just to make it flow better for the actual recording. But I think for Chapter 10, I will actually do at least a live read for the first time so that people can get my actual impressions. Because like I said, I think that some people said there's a chapter somewhere in here that they would like me to do like on the spot read so they can get my reaction. We'll see. We'll see how that turns out. I just thought based on the fact that the mods told me, whatever you do, don't see the picture in Chapter 10. And I'm like, okay, now I don't even want to do my usual copy it over and take notes thing. So yeah, we'll see how things go, but until then, we're going to go through Chapter 8 and Chapter 9 today. I'm sure it'll probably take up a whole recording to do this, but yeah, with that said, as per usual, thank you guys so much for your support, everybody that's dropped by for the premieres. Hey, chat, hope you guys are doing well. As per usual, greatly appreciate you guys' kind words, and yes, especially appreciate everybody that supports the channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that kind of stuff. It means so much to me. And so with that said, Chapter 8, Showdown with the Immortal Demon King. The Immortal Demon King Atov was incredibly famous. She was the daughter of one of the 5 great demon kings, Immortal Necros Lacrosse, and first made a name for herself in the Second Great Human-Demon War. Atov was a paragon of the demon race, although she lacked smarts. She possessed insane battle prowess and stamina. She was feared as a savage demon king. Her subordinates compensated for her intellectual shortcomings with their strengths. But when they had supply routes cut off during the war, they were wiped out. She was then captured by the humans and sealed away. Yeah, I can already guess that. She's not the brightest person. So yes, people like Moore are definitely a strong suit for her. It wasn't until Laplace's war that she was revived. Laplace was the one that gave her new life, and she made a name for herself as a demon king working beside him. When the conflict ended, she lost to North God Kalman and capitulated. According to one story, North God Kalman left a child with Demon King Atov, and it was this heir that became North God Kalman II. Another suggests that Kalman imparted wisdom of his sword technique to the Demon King. Yet another one claimed that Atov was the one who taught North God Kalman II all he knew. Very interesting stuff there. I'm curious if at some point they'll kind of suggest what the order was there. Again, this is this whole revisionist history thing. It's like, at this point, whenever there's some sort of history lesson where Reese is going through something that he learned, it's like, I don't know if any of this stuff is going to turn out to be true. There's so much messing up with history that's going on with this series that I love it. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but it makes me question everything now. If any were to be believed, then Atov was a battle-worn veteran who had directly passed on the techniques of the North God founder. Then there was the fact that she was immortal. Fighting a woman like this was foolish. Atov with her soldiers at her side looked like they were raring to go. Come on, I'll take all 4 of you at once. Despite being capable of overpowering them before they could react, she just stood there with her sword and scrutinized them. There we go, there's the answer to that. It's gonna be all of them versus all of them. I actually thought it was gonna be her against everybody, but it looks like it's just all out brawl. It's like, let's just have a big battle royale, 2 teams going head to head. You won't catch me off guard this time. I pick up things quickly. She's so smart, right? Seems she was ready for Rudius' electric magic and Zenoba's strength. Despite her skull being smashed in, she was back to normal. But her vigilance indicated that the attack was effective enough. She taunted Rudius and Zenoba to try the same attack again, claiming she'd shake it off. She seemed confident, and Rudius had the feeling that she could evade it. The Water God style allowed for a person to counter magic attacks, but he didn't know much about the North God style. Then again, she was a Demon King. He was sure that his magic wouldn't be effective this time. Yeah, that's a very important note. Rudius has fought 2 people that are North God. I think one he's already forgotten about, which is Gallus. but he's never actually learned much about the North God style. It's always fighting against one, not necessarily them teaching him. Rudeus activated his demon eye, but what good would it do him? He debated how to handle it, but decided creating an opening would be best. But what after that? Would magic work after that? Even his most powerful stone cannon didn't kill Bodigadi. Plus, Etoff was prepared for an attack. If she defended, then Elonly spoke up. Rudeus, let's at least sneak Cliff through, so he can teleport out of here. Cliff was bravely staring at Etoff, but his legs were trembling. He was going to be useless in battle. If we send him off with the tea leaves, plants, and the memo, he should be at least able to save Nanahoshi. Yeah, you have a point. They had to at least save Nanahoshi. That's why they came here. Nothing was more important than achieving their objective. Still, Rudeus wanted to make it home alive. Even if defeated, he'd survive, but spend a decade away from his family. No, the rest of your life. Where are you getting this from? You're going to be there for the rest of your life. We could always call for reinforcements. I'm sure Petagoose has had dealings with Etoff in the past. Surely he would help us. That was a thought. Maybe Petagoose and his 12 familiars could back him up. Surely he had enough power to fight Etoff. Which, yeah, it's kind of funny that we find out later that Petagoose has been beat by her. All right, let's do it. Think you can convince Cliff? I'll give it a shot. They create an opening, Cliff retreat, and as they held off Etoff, Petagoose would come rescue them. Could they last, though? Could Cliff persuade his help? No matter what, Cliff retreating meant that at least Nanahoshi was saved. It was the whole reason for the endeavor. But Rudeus wanted to go home. It's like, yeah, that would technically, I want to go home. Yeah, that would work. This would work. I want to go home. Ugh, he was spinning his wheels at this point. He had to calm down. First thing he needed to do was immobilize Etoff for a short moment, then disperse the knights and allow Cliff to escape. If it went well, the rest of them could flee. They might not be able to beat Etoff, but they could absolutely beat her guard. Let's do it. Smash them to bit. Murder them all. If that's what it took to get home, he'd do it. Okay, Rudeus, you can do this. This time, you're not going to be all talk and no action. Got it? Very interesting right here. I didn't notice until later on this whole statement right here. Yes, he's technically witnessed Moore be pretty much killed, like a slice in the head, and he came back. So he kind of assumes that at least Moore is immortal. But at the same time, right here, he's literally saying, I will kill these people. Like, he's making a commitment to himself in his own mind. Like, I can do this. I can do this. I'm going to have to kill him.
Fear not, master. Even at the cost of my life, I will hold Demon King Etoff in place.
Zenoba had nerves of steel. Perfectly calm. That was assuring to Rudeus. Why do he always sound so heroic at times like this? Was it some sort of stage play? If Rudeus was a woman, he'd be swept off his feet. I do kind of wonder that, yes, technically whenever things like this happen, Zenoba's just like, oh, again, it's one of those ones, I don't think we've had it yet, have we? It's one of those moments where I'm like, I really badly want a Zenoba perspective just to really get how his mind thinks, how he thinks things through. Because again, he's smarter than he seems, and second, he's very brave. Is he just being clueless about the situation, or he's just being like, again, very subservient to Rudeus? This is my master, I'll protect him. Rudeus has technically given him purpose in his life. Purpose that he didn't have before. Cliff spoke up. The problem is, I don't know if I can outrun them. My legs aren't terribly fast, especially if I have to carry all of this with me. Annalise responded, Rudeus and I will stop the pursuers you might have. Just don't look back, and don't give yourself time to think. Count your steps, and run as fast as you can. Try not to trip. But I should join you guys in battle. We can't win. Not even the four of us. We need you to call back up. That's your duty in this fight, and it's an extremely important one. Okay, I understand. She knows how to butter him up. It was 30 strides to the teleportation circle. If he ran with everything he had, he could make it. Okay, I convinced him. Cliff nodded to Rudeus, wearing a determined look of a man dedicated to his duty. Annalise did well in telling him that he was a key role in the fight. Such a smooth talker. She knows how to work him. Zenoba and I will distract Etoff and create an opening. Rudeus, you use that opportunity to disable the guards in the surrounding area. Got it. I like that she's stepping up. It's not a good idea, I think, at least from Annalise's perspective, to always give Rudeus like the call for everything. In this group right here, Annalise obviously has the most experience. So she's going to be able to at least gauge what everybody needs to do. Turning to face Etoff, she glared at them. Think you can beat me? The ground was on a slope. Rudeus was concerned for Cliff making it past without falling. All they could do was believe in him. Zenoba, Miss Annalise, I'll make the initial attack with my magic. Sounds good. Rudeus lifted his staff, considering his handy-dandy stone cannon. Perhaps lightning was a better pick, since it was a king tier with the best firepower, but they might all get caught up in it. He wanted to avoid being an idiot that wiped them all out. It's so funny right here having Rudeus actually debate things based on tier. Because yes, technically, he's already established that, or at least my opinion, and he's sort of confirmed this in certain ways, that these tiers are almost just based on the amount of mana you're pouring into it. Like the whole lightning spell thing was literally cumulonimbus, and he just putting more mana into it and continuing it on, and then condensing it down. And they kind of mentioned the idea that his stone cannon is pretty much a higher tier worth. So why is he still picking things based on, well, obviously it's the king tier, so it's the best firepower? It's not necessarily true. Ruiz then concentrated. He knows Etov not making a move. She knew that he can cast without incantations, but she made no move to interrupt him, which worked perfect for him. It is kind of a weird thing. It's an interesting thing to note. Is she being cautious or is she confident? Using Eye of Foresight, she will deflect the stone cannon with her sword. People said a stone cannon was at an insanely high level of magic, but even that wasn't going to work against her. Maybe electric? But she would be on guard for that.
Master, I swear, I will follow up whatever attack you unleash. So please, have faith in me.
Zenoba had confidence in his eyes. He's such a good bro. He's literally got best bro and best sis right with him. That was reassuring to hear. He clearly had some sort of plan. Okay, he would just have to follow his lead. I totally forgot about this. I was literally like busting out loud laughing when I got to this part. All right, then here we go.
Yes, master.
Ruiz unleashed a stone cannon, packing all mana he could into it. I see right through your attack. Etov barely moved her arm, deflecting the stone cannon. It slammed into a boulder on the slope behind her, sending plumes of sand into the air. Ruiz knew it. It wasn't good against her. Zenoba flung something at Etov. Zenoba threw something at Etov. That thing that he threw screamed as it launched towards Etov. Etov happily readied her sword to cut it down. Your attacks are Just as Etov was about to cut through the projectile, she froze. A second later, it smacked her right in the face. Kishinika was glued to Etov's face. She had been riding on Zenoba's shoulder only moments earlier. Gross! You smell like At least take a bath, you moron! Excuse you, it's not like I wanted to, yeah! Etov peeled her off her face and threw her in the air. I'm very curious why Etov hesitated. I'm very curious about that. My assumption is that it just threw her off. Like, okay, she's throwing something at her and she's like, all right, take it, I'm gonna hit whatever's coming towards me. But why did she pause? Again, is it hesitation because she just didn't think that was gonna happen? Like, it just completely dumbfound her? Or is it because she doesn't want to cut through Kishinika? Like, she can't kill Kishinika. She doesn't want to kill her. Be very curious as to why she stopped. Which, unfortunately, how this chapter ends, I don't think we're getting an answer anytime soon. But still, it was hilarious. It's still freaking hilarious. Actually, Zenoba, roar. It's like he's got like a shoulder attachment weapon that he just kind of throws. It's great. Disgusting. What were you thinking, throwing something like that? What? Zenoba clenched his fist and charged at Etov. Elise slipping in behind him, hiding in his shadow. Crap. Ruiz could see where this was going. So, you got past my defense. I like your spirit. Zenoba threw his fists. The strength behind it was enough to make Ruiz's hair stand up. His punch cut through the air as it closed in on her face. Etov tried to deflect it with her gauntlet, but it failed. His fist slammed into her glove, causing her to stumble and her armor to warp. Another swing to her torso, but it wasn't enough to force her back. She swung her sword full force into Zenoba's torso. His face contorted in pain as he dropped on one knee. Despite Zenoba not flinching at Ruiz's stone cannon, a single blow forced him to the ground. Which is interesting enough to think because he's technically more physical defense than magical defense. Or was it just fire? I think it was just fire. You have an impressive body, but don't forget, there is no such thing as a perfect defense. My husband, Cal, was the one who... Elise leaped out from behind Zenoba, stepping off his back and swinging her sword down into Etov's neck. However, it deflected with a noisy clang, probably protected by a battle aura. I'm not finished yet. She then backed down and brought her shield close and thrusted her weapon. Invisible shockwaves surged at Etov. But Etov didn't flinch, just furrowed her brow in displeasure, as if sand got in her eye. Your sword is weak. See? This is how you do it. Etov canted from her hips and swung her sword at Elise. She shielded the last second, but was sent spinning through the air. After rolling across the ground, she leaped back on her feet like a cat. Fear shone in her eyes as her attack was ineffective. That's kind of an interesting thing to note. We don't really see her fearful much. We see her, panicking and whatnot. We see a little bit of cold sweat here and there, but yes, that was her attack. And nothing happened to Etov. So you can assume that, yes, she's probably like, holy crap, this is not good. She was thrown by a mere shockwave of the sword being flung. If Annalise didn't block it, it might have sheared right through her. Your footwork's impressive. I'll give you that. If you train under me, you might. Ugh. Zenobia leaped up and threw his arms around Aitov, binding her in place. He then lifted her up so that her feet weren't touching the ground anymore.
Zenobia hug.
He's done that to Rudius. Rudius should be like, oh, I know the feeling, girl. It's okay. I know the feeling. You bastard. Have you no shame? Putting your arms around me like, ah! His arms were like a vice grip, squeezing her. Black blood came gushing out of her mouth. Apparently, this attack was effective. Zenobia uses bear hug. It's extremely effective.
Master, now.
Zenobia called to Rudius, snapping him back into reality. Cliff, go, now, run. Rudius then poured mana into his staff, creating an attack that would knock out the nearby soldiers. Cliff started running towards the knights, readying their swords. Frost Nova. Chills surged from his staff, and the ground crackled as it froze over. Icy's fingers sped towards the knights around them. While they were confused, the spell locked their feet in place. Their victory was assured. The spell caught them off guard.
Raging flames consume my body. Burn in place.
It was more. A wave melted the Frost Nova. Dude is actually a mage. Then Old Knight Captain started his chant when Rudius lifted his staff, aiming to counter it. Rudius was shocked by his magical power and how quickly he chanted. Rudius hadn't pulled his punch with the spell. However, he managed to free himself and two other guards. There was still a great difference in their power, as Rudius still had the rest encapsulated in ice. Rudius had won the battle, and now had killed for the first time. Again, note that. He made the decision back there, I'll murder them. If they can get me home, I'll do whatever I can, and if that means killing them, I'm gonna do that. Right here, he's finally acknowledging, I just took lives. Now, it's a fake out technically, but still. And yes, technically he takes part in killing some people later, so it doesn't matter either way.
I'm impressed at how much magic power you possess. Being able to freeze us all. Everyone, recite the incantation for burn in place.
As you command, fire spirit, who presides in all things between heaven and earth. As more shouted, the other shoulders began to chant the spell from within the ice they were trapped in. I've never heard of shoulders chanting. That's weird. That is weird. Super weird. This is our regularly scheduled What the Hell 7 Cs. As more shouted, the other shoulders began to chant. 7 Cs. Like, really? Did anybody read it? Did anybody read it? Anyways, the other soldiers began to chant their spell. They weren't dead. None of them died. There you go. There's your correction. You didn't kill anybody, Rudius. Not yet. It had to be the armor. Maybe it gave them natural resistance to water. Well, crap. Edtoff snarled as Cliff slipped faster. More! Don't let him get away!
Understood.
More sprang into action. A second later, two knights defrosted their prison and gave chase. As if I let you pass, Annalise darted out in front of the two, cutting off their path. Rudius, you take him! More chased after Cliff, not giving a glance backwards. He was quick for a man in armor. Rudius fired off a stone cannon at Moore, who would use Earth Wall to block it. No worries. He could do this. He poured his mana into his staff and unleashed the spell. As Moore ran, he threw his hand towards Rudius to recite his incantation, but Rudius' stone cannon blasted through his arm like a laser. His arm, along with his armor, went spinning into the air. Despite this, he kept his pursuit. Dude is like, it'll grow back. He's like, it'll grow back. Moore created a deep mist around him. He was pulling off his incantations quick. He had learned to reduce chance considerably, much like Roxy. Rudius then unleashed a wind blast to push the mist, but Moore continued his pursuit. What next? There wasn't much distance between him and Cliff. Rudius' eye of foresight told him that Moore would chant another spell.
Spirits of barren lands, answer my call and deliver me unto...
Disturb magic. Rudius practiced this with Sylphie many times. The magic shot towards Moore and interrupted his cast.
Impossible. Disturb magic?
Moore looked at his hand in shock, but he kept running. This is kind of interesting that he actually knows what disturb magic is. And yes, technically, the assumption here is this guy's been around for a long time, but it's still one of those elements of, is he shocked because he's surprised that somebody even knows how to use it? He's never seen somebody use it before in a long time. Maybe only certain people he's seen, like the Dragon God, use it. Rudius then dropped a quagmire under his feet, but it wasn't enough to stop him. Moore quickly used Earth Lance to kick him up in the air. Everything Rudius threw at him was countered or resisted. So these were the abilities of a veteran mage. Another one of those elements that kind of keeps reminding him, whenever you feel like you learned enough, learn more, dude. He keeps stopping himself. Like, he keeps saying, I'm good enough. I'm strong enough. I think this is going to be obviously a big wake-up call, as we'll see in the next chapter, but still. Rudius, help Cliff, hurry! Ellen Lace called from behind him. I know. Shooting her a glance, she was locked in battle with the soldiers from before.
Release me, damn it! Right now! Don't you have any shame as a man? Stop clinging to me! Let's at least trade fists!
Etov roared.
Even if you kill me, I won't let you go.
He's such a good boy. I was honestly afraid this entire chapter that Zenoba was going to die, by the way. I was like, either Zenoba or Ellen Lace would die, and I was like, no, please stop. The only reassuring thing is that I knew that Etov wanted to train them and make them her soldiers, so she wouldn't want to kill them. But stuff happens sometimes in battles like this. Like Ellen Lace, if she didn't block it, there's a good chance she could have died. Etov had already headbutted him. He kept his grip as blood poured from his forehead. Meanwhile, the other soldiers slowly defrosted themselves. What could Rudius do? Mor was strong and way more experienced in magic. Normal spells didn't work against him. No, even if it stopped Mor, it would get Cliff caught up in it. Plus, Mor was good at responding at whatever he threw at him. And it was that stupid armor that seemed like it had resistances. Then Rudius realized the ground beneath them was wet due to the Frost Nova. If Etov hadn't seen that type of magic before, then surely Mor hadn't as well. However, if he used it, then everyone would get hit by it. Except for Cliff. He was outside the radius and should be fine. He had his choice. In that instant, no hesitation. Electric. He poured mana into a spell to stun everyone without killing them. Electricity shot out from his hand and crackled through the air as it enveloped the area before sinking in the ground. It conducted through the water and hit everyone. Smoke rose from the black armor of the knights as they collapsed. Everyone was shocked, minus Cliff. It was like that brief moment was like, okay, we're gonna make it. And then no. It went through Rudius' body, shooting down his spine and joints. Every part of him seemed like it was bending the wrong direction. Sometimes happened, yep. He hadn't used enough mana to kill, so he knew that he'd make it out alive. But that didn't stop the darkness from swallowing his vision as he lost consciousness. When he came to, he was sprawled out on the ground. He remembered fainting, but it didn't last more than a couple seconds. His entire body was paralyzed, but he at least had his vision. What happened to Cliff? Lifting his head, Mor was on his knees, smoke rising from the cracks in his armor. He had one hand stretched out forward to Cliff, mumbling an incantation. Rudius needed to disturb magic, but he wasn't going to make it in time. Concentrating mana into his left hand, he launched a spell from his palm.
Windbind.
Arm, absorb. He used it. I wasn't expecting this. I was like, oh, okay, so that's done. This is another one of those, oh, so Rudius did this moments. One of those, okay, so at some point over here in some time gap, we made this. It's like Refugion's way of kind of throwing in things that surprise us, so we don't see everything that Rudius does. But yeah, that's kind of a letdown, the idea of like, I wish that kind of was shown. But the interesting thing about this is the distance. That's a long distance. I mean, the assumption that here is that we have like a large stretch of distance here, and he used that to absorb it from way over there. Yes, this being the stone from the Hydra implanted into his artificial hand. The air whip that Mor conjured disappeared in an instant.
What?
Mor's head jerked to Rudius' direction. Rudius couldn't see his expression, but he knew he was surprised. Cliff was nearly there. No one could stop him now. Rudius' spell had paralyzed Etov as well. Her eyes were wide open, staring down at Rudius like a tiger.
Bastard, you actually got us. That was some weird magic you used there. Still something to look forward to. I can't wait for you to be my subordinate. I've been waiting for a mage like you. I'll take good care of you. I promise.
She grinned at him. Being an immortal demon, she recovered quicker than Rudius. There was no escape, no way to resist her. Zenoba was out cold, despite still being wrapped around Etov. This was the end. Looking at Ellen Lace, she was trying to get on her feet. Having been dealt the same attack, it wasn't something that she could let stop her. Once you gave up, it was all over. Rudius could do the same with effort. Come on, let's do it. Let's go home. He wanted to go back. He had to. Maybe have some sexy time with Sylphie and Roxy. He wanted to hug Lucy. He had a promise to Norn to teach her swordsmanship and magic. He was looking forward to eating Aisha's rice. Lilia had a huge burden on her shoulders taking care of his mother. Surely Zenith would get her memories back eventually. When she did, they could all visit Father's grave. I like this, that moment of like, everything is falling apart. That's right. They'll keep smiling together, just as they always have. Rudius' life in this world was insanely enjoyable. He had to protect it. He could do this. Move. He didn't care if it was just his arm. At least he could use magic. Wait, what about his staff? He needed it for his spells. Oh, it was underneath him. Sorry about that, Aquahartia. I'm sure I was heavy. Time to do this. Hold out until help came. There was no need to win. Please, Master Cliff. You probably hated Pedagogus' guts, but please persuade him. Even if not immediately, but send backup within a year. Eloise let out a strangled gasp. Rudius jerked his head, following her gaze. Cliff stopped the entrance to a black armored soldier. They had someone guarding it too? Darkness spread inside of Rudius. An emotion he was familiar with. Despair. Something he's far too familiar with. Despair. It made him want to scream, slump over in exhaustion. Never again would he see Sylphie or Roxy. Instead, train with an idiot Demon King until he died. As he resigned himself to his fate, all strength left his body. That is an absolute let go. I mean, he's literally trying to force himself up because he just took this lightning hit. So his whole body's messed up. His muscles are messed up, and he has to literally force his muscles to move. And then this hits. Slouch. Just give up. It's all over. But then, a voice cried out. It was Etoff. She was gasping as she looked towards Cliff.
Ugh, Lady Etoff.
The armored knight pushed past Cliff, hobbled onto the slope. Something about him was strange.
The magic circle in there. It leads to
Something cleaved horizontally through his body, splitting it in two. The glowing individual who appeared behind him had silver hair. Yeah! Man, I was, just to get a little bit inside baseball here, again, copying my notes over to another document, and I cut through it, and I break things down. I got to this point, and I stopped taking notes. Like, at this point, I legit just started reading. It just went to a straight read mode. So I was telling the mods, I'm like, man, that was crazy, this, that, and they're like, oh, so you're gonna go to this chapter? I'm like, no, I gotta go back, and I gotta make notes. The glowing individual who appeared behind them had silver hair, golden pupils, and white clothing covered in specks of blood.
Immortal Demon King Etoff Retoff.
The man at the entrance spoke demon tongue.
I would have never expected you to be here, though I did consider something like this might happen when I connected my teleportation circles to here by Rikarisu.
Armanfi, Silvarl, and 6 others fall behind him.
Your filthy soldiers have sullied my fortress with their blood.
Patagoos!
The moment Etoff spotted Petagus, the atmosphere around her changed. The hostility that oozed from her was like nothing he had ever seen before. Her anger made Rudius wonder if he had murdered her parents or something. I did kind of wonder that. They really don't like each other. Really don't.
Patagoos, you bastard!
She pulled her numb body up and shoved Zenobia off. Her wings began to beat rapidly as she focused her strength to her legs. But then her knees gave out. Petagus cracked a delighted smile.
This is quite a pleasant surprise, Etoff Retoff. Did you let your guard down again? That does seem like something your immortal demon tribe is prone to.
So, these people were your minions, huh? This underhanded trick of yours, was this all so you could kill me? What happened to your oath you made with Cal?
Petagus chuckled as he looked down on his nose to her. Overcome with anger, Etoff screamed at him while Moore tried to make his way to her, but failed. Petagus looked as if he regarded Etoff like a tiger fixed on his favorite prey.
Don't misunderstand. These people wanted to save their friend, so they requested my help. That is all.
Don't you dare lie to me! Grah!
I'll keep my promise I made to Cal. He was my best friend.
The two of you may be friends, but I hate your guts!
Petagus paused for a long moment.
I also detest people like you. You're a fool who won't listen to reason.
Just like, I read this part and I just got like this. Please, bind. Just do this for me. Just put this in your notes somewhere. Whenever you finally get around to 14 in season 3, please get with Sawano here, Yuki, and put a Sawano drop right here. Please put a Sawano right here. You got that build up.
I hate your guts!
And then just that pause.
I also detest people like you. You're a fool who won't listen to reason.
Sawano drop. Sawano drops make everything cooler, and that would be an epic moment. He then raised up both of his hands, palms raised. Etoff's face turned pale.
No, you wouldn't!
This dragon lives only to serve. His claws are so long and sharp, he can't clench his fists.
Reese felt like he heard this before.
When rage consumes him, he cannot close his fists, although his claws may break and his fangs fall out. You shall soon realize what emotion consumes this faithful dragon as he abandons his devotion.
He bit out each word. As he did, mana coalesced around him.
O dragon general, thou who was the third to die, whose eyes were the sharpest, whose body was covered in white scales, I, armored dragon Petagus, summon thee.
Before Ruius could realize it, Etoff was surrounded by 2 gates, blocking her off. Both had minutely detailed dragon carvings on each one of them that were very ornate. One silver, the other gold. They came rising out of the ground as Pedagoose continued.
Open rear worm gate. Beckon forth. Front worm gate.
They burst open, something pouring from the right one and filtered to the left. It wasn't wind, it was mana. They were summoned to absorb mana. Rudius' own magic power was being sucked from him. It wasn't the same as with Orsted. It drained faster and more intense, as if sapped Rudius' stamina. Very important note, by the way. Very, very important note, for me anyways. Remember when Orsted used the Wormgate? He was like acting as if he was trying it for the first time. So how'd it go? It was like this. Yeah, that's how it went. And he's experimenting it. Again, this is somebody that knows all known abilities. Not that he's ever used them before. Which I want to take note of, because the whole thing with Edis is this idea that she's training to fight somebody that knows all abilities. Doesn't mean he's the best with them. So if she's better with them, she can overcome it. But that's just a theory based on how this is sort of being put here. Orsted knows how to use it, and it's much more powerful. Or Orsted just wasn't trying. Moore called out to Etoff to flee before collapsing completely. Etoff's legs were trembling violently as she pinned Pedagoose with a glare.
Pedagoose!
Her body looked smaller. Perhaps the gates were absorbing her battle aura. Yeah, this kind of makes me believe it's kind of similar to what with Badigati. When Badigati was hit with that humongous attack, it blew off most of his body, and when he put it back together, he was smaller. And it kind of indicated this idea that as the arms came to him and stuff, and it kind of made him a little bit bigger. So it kind of gives an indication that they're making themselves bigger and stronger with more mana, which makes you believe that something like Kishirika, maybe that has a lot to do with her mana. How much mana she's built up is her size as well.
Do you seriously intend to break your oath?
I won't break it. However, this is an exceedingly rare opportunity that I cannot afford to pass up.
Pedagoose lifted his right hand. It had turned white, radiant with light, so bright that it bathed the entire area.
Armored Dragon Strike First Slash.
Dropping his hand, all the light pierced straight through Etoff.
I won't forget this, Pedagoose!
Her body froze in place. Time seemed to have lagged for a second. And then, she was hurled back into the air. Her body split in half as she tumbled out of view. So, done. Damn! Again, this better be amazingly animated by if you're not gonna get Sawano Hiroyuki involved, at least nail that. Straight rector, dude. Straight rector. Now, I do keep in mind the idea that this is like literally an opportunity he couldn't pass up. I do kind of wonder if Orsted could defeat her now if they were one-on-one. The idea here is that, yes, Rudius at least messed her up enough that she couldn't move. She was very difficult in moving. And that was enough for him to be able to lock her in place and one-shot her. But it is kind of curious, the idea of, like, can he defeat her normally? It's really interesting.
It's not as if that's going to kill you anyways.
Pedagoose muttered, having lost interest. He turned to leave.
It's not like going to kill you anyways. Let's go.
He's like, I don't care anymore.
Savaro, collect the other ones and tend to their wounds.
And what of the other soldiers?
Leave them.
I see the Demon World's great Emperor Kishirika is among them as well. Kishirika had apparently been hit with the electricity attack. Sorry about that. She's in there twitching.
Leave her as well.
As you command. Thank goodness. They were going to overlook Kishirika. Rudius breathed a sigh of relief. They were saved. After that, Pedagoose's familiars helped them towards the teleportation circle. Rudius noticed Cliff spoke to Kishirika before she cackled and walked off in the distance, free again. Rudius was hoping the next time that he had to see her, they would have an easier time finding her. Just look around the kebab places. just go around and look for kebab stands. That's all you need. After returning, Savaro severed the connection to the circle, and everyone was guided to the sickbay for treatment. Cliff looked them over. I've never seen burns like this before. Their wounds weren't life-threatening, but burns had penetrated deeply enough to damage permanently if they weren't treated. Rudius felt guilty, but he had to disable Etoff. When it came to Ellen Elise, Cliff was particularly careful, probably worried about residual scarring. For her part, Ellen Elise found the concern endearing, and carried him off somewhere afterwards. Now it's time for your gift. No, it's like, if anything, it's like, you did so well on the battlefield. Cliff, you did so good. You ran so fast, and you didn't stop. You were so brave, Cliff. Let me give you a reward. Zenoba remained unconscious even after being healed. He really saved their skin back there, because he's a good bro. Zenoba's good bro. No amount of gratitude could fully repay him for that. As priceless as friendship was, Rudius had to thank him for all he did. Once healed, Rudius went to see Sylphie. She was in bed, reading a book, and tilted her head as he walked in. Without answering her inquiry about what was wrong, he slid in bed and wrapped his arms around her. She let out a cry of surprise, which stabbed him in the heart. It felt like rejection. Although hurt by that, he still hugged her tight. I'm always interested in how Rudius responds to things. Simple things like her, giving a little squeak is enough to make him hurt. But again, this kind of plays back from the whole thing that he's having right now with Sylphie. Because of what she said, because of her teasing, he's taking it to heart. He takes a lot of things very seriously. I joked about it with a few people that I almost equate this situation with Nanahoshi and Sylphie is almost similar to the whole situation with Edis and Rudius. This idea that Edis leaves him a note and he reads it the wrong way. And he assumes the worst and it wrecks his whole life. Same thing's happening here. She says something, even though teasing, he takes it to heart. He takes the completely wrong thing from it. And so he's super insecure right now. Rudius is a very insecure person. Newsflash. Etof's laughter lingered in his ears. Add to the despair he felt when he was unable to move. He knew he wasn't going to die. Etof and her knights were holding back. The magic Moor used wasn't dangerous enough to kill, but it didn't make it less terrifying. If Pedagus hadn't came, Etof would have had him under a contract. He'd never see Sylphie, Lucy, Roxy, Norn, or Aisha again. That alone shook him to the core. Enough that his whole body trembled in fear. There was nothing more precious to him than the warmth he had in his arms right now. Suddenly a hand brushed over his hair. Sylphie stroked his head with her dainty fingers. She happily returned his embrace, not asking for an explanation. That was enough for him. With arms around her, he fell asleep relieved. Pretty crazy. It's a few interesting things here. This was literally a day. They got to Rikarsu. They immediately went to the Adventure Guild, did the exchange, found a place to stay at the inn, went around looking around. They even met Nokopada at some point. They were supposed to meet with Nokopada again in the evening. They immediately went to get food. They were getting food for that day. Find Kishirika, go into the castle, fight, run, fight again, go back home. One day. They didn't even spend a day there. This happened extremely fast. I mean, it's a positive thing in the idea that they found a cure within a day, which Reese was assuming this could take years. They did it in a day. They got extremely lucky, but unlucky at the same time. It's a very interesting thing to kind of note. Additionally, I like the fact that technically this fight was lost by Etof. Rudius didn't even beat her. Pedagus didn't beat her. Etof lost herself. If she had never sent somebody into that portal, she would have won. She would have had her recruits. But no, she had to go look what's in the other side of that teleporter. And the moment she sent somebody in that door, she lost. Like, if Rudius knew that was happening, he'd probably be like, hey, let's just sit here and talk for a little bit. I mean, she's screwed. It's gonna happen. She's dead. It's pretty good. But yeah, technically, yes, Pedagus wins, but it's partly Rudius's win as well. I mean, the shock is what sort of disabled her enough for Pedagus to just come in and just done. But even still, Pedagus does note the idea that even slicing her in half, shooting her across the sky, draining all of her battle ore and everything like that, doing all that is not going to probably kill her. And apparently he has some sort of pact or something with his friend, which is her husband. I'll be really curious if at some point we'll get more into that whole thing. Because yes, they're mentioning the idea that, yes, the war was happening, they were fighting. Pedagus, they'll mention later on, kept losing to her. Kalman and the rest of them show up. They defeat her, and then apparently Kalman gets with her. It's like they fight each other, and Kalman's like, damn, you good, girl. Let's have babies. It's kind of an interesting little prospect. But apparently she's still very fond of him, I'm guessing. But yeah, crazy chapter. Not, again, similar to the previous chapters. Not much to speculate on, but crazy little fight. And I really do like in this next chapter, it looks like this has at least woken up Rudius, the idea that he needs to get stronger. Now, how long that lasts? Just like every other time? We'll see. But at least the door is opening for a lot of things. Chapter 9 is crazy good, so let's jump into it. Chapter 9, A Day in the Floating Fortress. 2 days flew by. Zenoba, after regaining consciousness, merrily toured the castle and all its handicrafts. Reese was relieved that he fully recovered. If he hadn't, he wouldn't know what to tell Ginger. I wouldn't be concerned about Ginger. I'd be concerned about Zenoba. Cliff, on the other hand, had changed. Immediately after the battle, he spoke with Kishirika. It turned out they were discussing his reward for helping her before. A demon eye. This goes into what I was talking about before. That's so funny. Reese was afraid of him asking for a demon eye instead of asking about the cure. This seems to be implying that Cliff went up and said, that wasn't our reward. Here, give me a demon eye for my reward. Now, it could be the idea that Kishirika is like, yeah, that's fine. I mean, that wasn't really enough to reward you. Here, have this too. Or it could be an idea that right here, maybe it's just not really worded right. It could be the fact that Cliff is claiming that he saved her right now by bringing Petagoose, and he's getting a reward from her. Which, if that's the case, Cliff crafty. Cliff is super crafty. Oh yeah, Kishirika, I just brought Petagoose. Give me an eye. He got the eye of identification from her. It allowed him to look at any item and understand its characteristics. He chose it so that he would be able to help if anything like this happened again. As always, Cliff was nothing if not heroic. However, he was struggling with it. Apparently, everything that he looked at came with a name tag and explanation. To him, the whole world was flooded with text. He couldn't walk around without at least guiding him. Surely, he'd master it eventually, and then people would call him Cliff the Wise. Until then, he'd probably have to wear an eye patch. Very, 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 very interesting. Now, first, the reason why, in case something like this ever happened again. So my assumption there is that, yeah, technically he could walk around and maybe find a plant, and it says underneath there, this is a plant of a filly flop, and it has the ability to cure blubajab, and if you put it inside of a tea, it'll then cure salmonus flash. That's my assumption, because otherwise, like, being able to see something and know what it is doesn't necessarily, for me, doesn't really necessarily make any sense. But again, it's supposed to be based on whatever Kishirika knows. That was a whole, like, negative thing that Ruius was weighing. He's like, I have identification? Yeah, that doesn't sound very good, because if she doesn't know what it is, then it's basically going to say null. Like, there's nothing here. We don't know. Question marks. But it could be a possibility that if, with this eye right now, if he looks at the Sokus grass, there's a possibility that it says Sokus grass, and then it says what it does. That's my curiosity. If there's more to it, does it have, like, flavor text and a drop-down menu with all stats and stuff like that? I'd be very curious about that. But yeah, that does kind of suck if you think about it, him walking around and text everywhere. He's got to learn how to control it, just like Rudius. When Rudius first got his eye, he was seeing, like, triple of everything. Like, everything was like he was drunk. So it makes sense that he's going to have to figure out how to stop the mana from flowing to it so that he can actually see normally out of that eye. Otherwise, like he mentions, he's going to have to wear an eye patch. But yeah, Cliff, good boy. Even when he does get a demon eye, it's for this sake. No, it's not necessarily for the sake because they have a cure for this, but I think he felt so helpless. Cliff felt so helpless in the situation. Anything he can do right now to remedy that, I think he's going to go after. As for Nanahoshi, they decocted the tea leaves and had her drink it. She soon started complaining about needing to use the restroom. Yuruzu helped her out, and well, to preserve her honor, Ruius spared the details. Let's just say she was on the mend. Ruius visited her, still bedridden, and checked on her condition. Her complexion had improved considerably. While still a bit fatigued, she had lost a lot of weight, as if everything in her stomach was flushed out, leaving nothing but a skeleton behind. I'm feeling quite better. So happy. So happy. Ugh, girl. I've been not liking this whole segment. Now, granted, it doesn't say that she's cured, so this is not something that we're out of the woods yet, but still, it's enough for me. It's enough for me that, at least for right now, she's not spitting out hairballs that are red-colored. To be on the safe side, she did another month of rest, but at least she was in high spirits now. Her expression was different than her usual tense tone. She looked like she was dazed from having been woken up, her hair disheveled, sticking out in every direction. Thank you for saving me. She bowed her head, a rare display of sincerity from her. I truly appreciate you shouldering the risk to get me these tea leaves. You, really helped me out. There was something deeply unsettling about hearing her talk like that. Nah, she's just feeling weak, so she's kind of out of it. No sweat. You looked after me the last time I was in trouble too. I said some pretty insensitive things to you, and yet you helped me out without resenting me for it. I don't even know how I can begin to thank you. He'd never witnessed her acting so polite. Maybe Yuruzu's ability also transferred personalities as well. That's dangerous. Don't turn Nanahoshi into something else. Now that I think about it, I was pretty casual and crude with you, even though you're older than me. I don't mind at all. In this world, I'm only 18. And how old were you before you came here? 30. But don't worry about it. Let's forget the whole age thing. And you don't have to be so polite. You could talk to me the same way you always have. All right. It's so funny to have Rudius actually telling somebody, stop being polite to me. Stop being nice to me. Stop, act like your usual casual self. It's like one of, like, I don't know, like 3 scenarios where he's like that, where it's like, dude, you're being a hypocrite. I'm sure they already told you, but your sickness won't go away entirely, I know. She wasn't cured of the drying syndrome. Soka's grasp would temporarily break down the mana building up inside her. Left untreated, it would accumulate again. Since she wasn't from this world, she didn't have an immunity. Fortunately, drinking Soka's grasp would keep it from building up. There was also the possibility that even a little magic could make her sick. The next illness she came down with might be something that even Kishirika didn't know about. Something even more ancient than drying syndrome. Good point. I mean, that was the whole point that she made, that she's never been the most, healthy person ever. Not that she was sickly or anything like that, but she claimed that she knew when she came to this world that she wasn't of this world. So she's been keeping away from people. There was actually a point for why she was so distant. Yes, it's because she thought this world was fake. She didn't want to get to know anybody, but she was also guarding against local illnesses. So there could be a time where she ends up bumping into somebody, which is kind of one of those aspects of makes you a little bit sad in the idea of, yeah, he almost wants to pull her out and go do things with her. But at the same time, there's a danger there. Every time she goes out to a bar or something like that, she could contract something. She doesn't have the same immunity that everybody else has in this world. Like I've said before, is that whole aspect of that. It's not just the fact that she doesn't want to be here. Equally, the world is actively rejecting her. She's essentially a virus in the body of this world. She's a foreign object in there. As long as she was here, she couldn't avoid mana. It was everywhere, in the atmosphere, even in the food they ate. Nanahoshi, you have to return home. You can't die here. Yeah, I'll do everything I can to help you secure your way back. But I don't need your gratitude or anything. Although, if I get myself in trouble along the way, I hope that you'll be there for me in return. She started sniffling as tears welled up. She let out a muffled sob, barely whispered, "Thank you." Rias patiently waited for her to stop crying. "But I'll go home." "Yeah, I'm sure you want to get back as fast as you can." "No, I mean, I might not be able to repay you for everything before I leave." So she wanted to repay him before she left? She's more conscientious than he gave her credit for. There's no need for you to pressure yourself like that. You've helped me out before, after all. I did that to thank you for helping me with my research. All right, then I would like some detailed advice on a small matter. Pause. I'm sorry. No doubt right here, Nanaho's fallen for Rudius. I truly think that. Now, this could be a non-love thing. I mean, it doesn't always have to be romantic. There can be a strong bond between two people, even the opposite sex, that is literally driven by just a desire for the other person, not sexually or not for anything else. Just that they have a strong relationship with the other person. I truly think right here, Nanahoshi is not wanting to leave Rudius. Right here, she's going... I mean, again, from the very beginning when she first arrived, she said that she that she liked this world. She's like, cool. I was like, yeah, magic and everything. Great. She thought it was cool. But she didn't have anything. She had no power. And again, the world rejected her. She had nothing when she came to the world. And equally, the world doesn't want her there. And it's sad because I think now, and it's happened before, we've gotten these little small signs that Nanahoshi's like, but I kind of want to be here a little bit longer. I kind of want to be with these people. Yes, she does want to get home. She wants to get home so badly. She wants to get back to her family. She misses her family. She doesn't want to die in this world, in a world that doesn't want her there, in a world that she doesn't want to be in. But I think right here, it's a small sign that she's not wanting to leave. A small sign that she's going to miss Rudius. I think right here, if not romantic, she's becoming very, very closely bonded to Rudius. And it's hurting her, the idea that he's helped her so much, she can never repay it, and that she doesn't want to leave him now. What small matter? For instance, what does a girl around my age want? Sophie and I have a long future ahead of us. We're married and have a child, but I still don't know what's going through her head. You and me both, Rudius. Given that you're about the same age, I thought you might know something. About what Sylphie's thinking? She stroked her chin, staring down at her blanket. She was giving it serious consideration, dedicated to paying him back. It is nice that he's kind of giving her a door open. All right, here, I got something that you can try to fix this situation. You don't have to answer it right now. You can wait until we have a fight and I want to make up with Sylphie or something. All right. She nodded with a sincere expression. She was close to Sylphie's age, but there was a lot separating them. They came from different worlds, and Sylphie was married. Nanahoshi couldn't understand her completely. Even Rias didn't have any idea what guys his age were thinking. Yeah, try to guess what Luke is thinking. He does a pretty good job of it. I mean, he knew what he was doing with Savarl. In that case, we'll leave it at that. I'm sure your body is still weak, so take your time recovering. Yes, I will. Thank you. Rias left the room. If he hung out too long, there it is again. He may make Sylphie jealous again. She was cute in that mode. but he took no pleasure in giving her anxiety. He never wanted to make her second guess his love. The fact that he succeeded in that was a failure on his part. I do like, it is a curious thing. It is a very curious thing that Rudius, after that whole statement from Sylphie, again, when Sarah went to go leave, Sylphie literally said, "You're not going to go get her? Like, I thought you liked her. Don't you want to add her to the harem?" Like, it was literally like Sylphie was saying, "Go, Rudius. Bring her in. I mean, do you need me to go buy a ring for you real quick and you can go catch her? I'll get the ring for you and we'll just get married right here." It's literally like she's constantly begging him to go get somebody else. Again, it's that whole aspect that Sylphie herself wants Rudius to be happy. And if she sees that Rudius is happier with another woman, bring him in. Just introduce me to them. That's all she said. Just bring him to me. That's all I ask. And yet Rudius never thinks about that. In this situation right here, after Sylphie teased him, and he's taking it very, very seriously, he's literally thinking that he's going to destroy his relationship with Sylphie. Why doesn't he think about that? Why doesn't he think about the fact that Sylphie says, "If you like somebody, bring him to me"? Is it the aspect that she thinks? Is the aspect that he thinks that she thinks that he is doing it behind her back and won't bring Nanahoshi to her? That could be a thing. But it's just a very curious thing that he's so wrapped up in this. This is something that is making him feel... And again, I acknowledge why Rudius thinks this. Because things are different with Nanahoshi. From Sylphie's perspective, things are different between Rudius and Nanahoshi. They have a very special bond that she can't quite figure out. Or she's already figured it out and she wants him to say something. As he strode down the hallway, evening sunlight poured through the windows. The sunset was beautiful no matter what world you lived in. He wasn't fond of heights, but the view of the garden was tempting. The garden was full of perfectly trimmed shrubbery, flowers he had never seen before. He wanted to bring Sylphie and Roxy there, but sadly, Roxy wouldn't be allowed. Yeah, after what happened with Toff's people, do not bring Roxy there. Do not. Sylphie would probably turn bright red as he whispered in her ears. Roxy would probably give him some sort of blank look and say he didn't need to say corny lines. Still, she'd probably love the view, and he would make her blush saying that she was more beautiful. As he walked around the garden, he spotted a table with 3 people sat at it. Zenoba, Perdigus, and Ariel. Nearby was Luke and Savarl.
And that's when my master used his magic. This purple light shot from his hand, and it jarred Atof's body, paralyzing her in place. Aha, so it was his magic that weakened her so much.
Lord Rudius's magic does seem to know no bounds.
Master Ellenlise and I did get caught in his attack, but I don't think there was another mage in this world that could have done such a spell outside of my master. I hear it resembles lightning, but if it was able to paralyze Atof, as you say, it must have been quite potent.
And what happened after that? How did the battle end?
Unfortunately, I'm afraid I lost consciousness at that point, so I'm unable to... Oh, there's the man himself. I said, "Oh, master, come over and tell the story. Come tell the story."
Zenoba noticed Rudius, so he bowed and made his way to the group. "Good evening. Are you having a tea party?"
"Yes, master. Lord Pedigus said he wanted to know about our battle against Atof, so I explained the finer details to him."
"I see. Pedigus seemed to be in much better spirits than their first audience." Yes, because he got to kill Atof. He's real happy right now. He's on cloud 9 right now. He's like, "Yeah. So tell me, how'd it look when I cut her right in half?" Did you hear that squee that she made when she died? Yeah.
"I hear it was your magic that weakened Atof so greatly, Rudius."
"No, it was largely thanks to Zenoba for locking her in place. If I had to aim that spell without his help, she may have deflected it."
"I see. Yes." The image still lingers in my mind.
He racked an obscene grin. Does he really hate her that much? He was in a good mood.
Yeah. It still lingers in my head. It looks so good in my head right now. If only I could turn my memories into pictures.
You seem quite chipper.
Of course I am. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd get an opportunity to exact my revenge on someone who has given me grief so many times I lost count.
Revenge, you say?
Yes. A grudge, if you will, that lasted a number of years.
He was probably referring to the Laplace's War 400 years ago. Pedigus was a young adventurer, but aided humans in the front line. Etof had spearheaded some of the demon's forces as a general. Pedigus encountered her many times, and since he was so inexperienced, he wasn't able to beat her. 2 people saved him back then. The dragon god Erdipin, an older brother-type figure to him, and the North god Kalman. Pedigus could only grit his teeth in frustration at each loss. He planned to eventually take his revenge on Etof, but then Kalman married her. It's like, nope. He's like, time to go try it again. I'm ready this time. I'm gonna take her out. And he walks out there, and they're walking down the aisle together. Damn it. When Kalman died, he made the two swear an oath that they wouldn't kill each other. Thus, Pedagoose never went back to the Demon Continent, destroying his chance for revenge. He almost given up hope, but this timing was more perfect than he could ever imagine. He took a shot at her without her coming back in return. That was what made him on Cloud 9. Very interesting note there. Again, maybe just weird wording there, but specifically mentioning that he told him to swear an oath that the two of them would not kill each other. Thus, Pedagoose never went back to the Demon Continent. Swear an oath never to kill each other, never went back to the Demon Continent. Is the reason why he never goes there is strictly because he never wants to break that oath? Because he went there. I mean, it was because his place was being invaded, and he went to the other side and like, man, what the hell? What's going on here? But still, it's a very interesting way of wording that. My assumption was that Pedagoose is always over here because there's some spatially right there is close to a seal for Laplace or something like that. He thinks it's a good place to be able to attack Laplace or something. It's a good positioning. But I wonder if it's an aspect he wants to stay away from the Demon Continent. It's very interesting. Again, he doesn't like the demons, so why would he want to be over on that side of it anyways? And he maybe possibly wants more food in that area anyways. But again, technically, Aramanfi can just move at the speed of light. Who knows? Just a weird wording.
I must thank you for that. You did a splendid job.
Are you sure that's okay that you broke your oath to the North God Kalman?
He forbade us from killing each other. I am sure he wouldn't fuss over one-sided pummeling.
No, we're not supposed to kill each other, but one-sided pummeling's okay. But yes, technically pummeling, meaning the idea that he doesn't think she's dead. She's a moral demon king. It seemed barbaric beating up a defenseless opponent over a centuries-old feud, although that spoke volumes to their grudge. Yeah, he hates her guts. He hates her guts.
It appears that I may have misjudged you a bit. I should give you some kind of reward.
I don't really need a reward. Reese really wasn't after another deal like with Atoff.
Ah, yes. Once Nanahoshi finishes recovering, I will personally teach you how to use summoning magic.
I'm not going to be stuck here and unable to return home for another decade, am I?
Don't compare me to Atoff.
Some of these conclusions that Rias comes up to is so stupid. I mean, yes, it's funny. It's a joke. It's probably set up to be a joke by Refugin. This idea of like, oh yeah, I just went through all this crap. I don't want to be stuck with it. But still, it's like, dude, really? Why would you assume that he's going to do things the same way? Have you been stuck in the floating fortress learning from Savarl? No. Then there was no reason to refuse. He wanted to know more about summoning magic. Plus, he might face a similar crisis in the future. It wouldn't hurt to learn new ways to fight. He wasn't fond of conflict, but you needed strength to escape danger. After the Hydra and this situation, it was clear he wasn't powerful enough. He wanted to think situations where he would have to fight anything of this level will be few and far between. But better safe than sorry. Finally, we're gonna kick him up to saying, I was not prepared. And things were crappy. I need to prepare. I need to get stronger. And it's like, it's so funny that he's actually knocked off Orsted off the list. Did you notice that? Hydra and this situation. What about Orsted? It used to be Orsted. I need to prepare for Orsted. And then you're like, I'm strong enough. I don't care. I don't need to get stronger. Hydra happens. Crap. I need to get strong enough for whenever Hydra attacks again. I'm good again. It's not like I'm gonna run anything bad again. Crap. Etoff happened. I need to get stronger. Stop this, dude. Lord Pedagoose, do you think you could possibly do some training with me? Or teach me how to fight better? I don't mind if it's after the summoning lessons.
Was this brought on by your encounter with Etoff? Or are you not satisfied already with how much power you possessed?
It's not like that. I just thought it would be nice to have better options if I ever got in that kind of trouble again. After a long pause, Pedagoose spoke up.
Very well. I will give you an item so that you can contact me. Savarl.
He shot a look over at her. Savarl produced a flute from her pocket, one that resembled a tower with a dragon wrapped around it.
If you use that in any place that I have connected to, Clear Knight of the Roaring Thunder will hear it, and Aramanfi will come to see you.
So it's like a 3-step process. Clear Knight has to hear it, Aramanfi goes there, and then Pedagoose pulls him in. Rias took the flute and tucked it away. It sounded like he would help him if he ever needed it. That wasn't a bad solution either. That's interesting, because he's literally asking Pedagoose, hey, teach me some stuff. Like, teach me how to fight. I need more options. And Pedagoose says, what, you don't feel like you're strong enough? Are you wanting to get stronger? What more power do you need? And Rias like, no, I just need more options. So it's okay, very well then. Here, give him a flute. Call this and we'll come get you. And Rias is saying after this, oh, so he'll come and help me. I don't necessarily think that's what Pedagoose is saying. I mean, the option here is, I need to get stronger. So he's giving you an option to be able to come there and he'll train you. He'll if he has time, he'll help you out with learning some things, or you can ask him a couple questions. It's not like you're gonna get help by running over to one of these monuments, blowing the whistle, and then Armafi shows up and you're like, yeah, I just got attacked way back at my house. Can you come help me? I think they're still there. Maybe you can fight them if they're still around, I think. No, I think it's... So Rudius has like a source, a place that he can come to get knowledge and information. Seems the sun is set. Despite evening light fading, the area around them wasn't dark. It was due to the blue glow from the flowers.
This table is made from illuminators. Go on, have a seat. Why don't we continue our chat for a bit?
Rudius sat down obediently. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right here? Okay.
The dwarves' craftsmanship was really at its height prior to the Second Great Human-Demon War.
Indeed, if the dwarves hadn't lost their homeland during the conflict, they might be making masterpieces right now.
Pedagus was actually an interesting fellow once you got to talking to him. He possessed great wisdom and loved the fine arts. He was also a man of culture, who had an appreciation for creative work.
The dwarf race has endured at least. They possess such dexterous hands. I'm sure that one day they will produce another craftsman capable of creating superb work. Speaking of which, I believe you said one of you is raising such a craftsman.
Julie! Julie! Pedagus is gonna come after Julie. Keep Julie away from Pedagus. He's gonna steal her away.
Yes, though he may not look it, my master is deeply knowledgeable about figurines. We thought if we taught a dwarf such techniques, we might achieve new heights.
You did show me one of Rudius's figurines. It was quite interesting. It's incredible to think he was able to create such a replica of a person with such intricate details.
They were enjoying the conversation, but Rudius sadly lacked their level of knowledge, so he wasn't keeping up. It was still interesting to listen to, though. It's like, no, they're talking about figurines. Like, right here, it's like, okay, just say what you're doing. like, what is so difficult to kind of just jump in a conversation right now? You're talking about your figurines. You're talking about you. No, you flatter me too much.
No need to be humble.
Agreed. Sylphie told me many times how talented you are, Lord Rudius. Ariel was present as well, jumping in with her own suggestions and knowledge. Sadly, her attempts was fruitless. Zenoba and Pedagus were so hardcore that she and Rudius had no hopes of keeping up. It's not just magic. Lord Rudius is knowledgeable at the art as well. He is truly an amazing person. Thank you, Princess. Ariel was acting as a third wheel. While she desperately wanted Pedagus's help, she was at a loss for how to gain favor. Rudius smiled uncomfortably as she showered him with exaggerated praise. For the better part of the conversation, she had turned into a robot, parroting generic lines. It was obvious that she had nothing of substance to add to the conversation. She had a long road ahead of her. At least she's taking the advice that Rudius gave Sylphie that gave her this idea of just go in there with Zenoba and just be a part of the conversation. And it's unfortunate because it seems like she pushed her way in there in ways that Pedagus doesn't want it. Like, Zenoba is doing well to guide the conversation. They are having so much fun talking. The problem is that Ariel's injecting there and ruining the situation, ruining the flavor of what's going on.
Incidentally, Lord Pedagus, we were thinking of putting some of these figurines on the market soon. Might we ask your honest opinion on the idea?
Zenoba grabbed a figurine from a box that Rudius had seen before. This is actually really, really cool, and it's so funny because I completely forgot about it.
Oh.
Pedagus was intrigued, but then mood quickly soured.
A superb figurine.
I should have known you would recognize by a mere glance.
You asked me this question, knowing how I detest demons. You better give up any illusions about selling me this thing.
It was expected. He really loathed demons. He was tolerant, but held a greater prejudice against demons than anyone Rudius had met. Zenoba should have known this would ruffle feathers. What was he playing at?
Nonetheless, the model for this figurine is someone to whom you owe a debt, Lord Pedagus.
A debt, you say?
He frowned, thought, then went wide-eyed.
Don't tell me you used Regard Superdia as the model for this.
Yes, we did. You told me that your last battle with Laplace, it was Lord Regard who assisted you.
Zenoba's smart. Zenoba's super smart. Holy crap, dude. Again, it seems like every chapter now, it's like it's constantly hitting me with, dude, you don't know Zenoba. You don't know him. You don't know him. It's so good. Zenoba's words rolled smoothly off his tongue. He wasn't bringing this up on the fly. The two of them enjoyed numerous tea parties. He must have gotten that information out of Pedagus previously. Now Rudius knew where he was going, and it gave him hope.
Of course, I'm perfectly aware of your distaste for demons. However, I also believe that if my master's skills has some public exposure, this type of craftsmanship would take the world by storm. Wouldn't you like to see that happen? Imagine it. A splendid world overflowing with art.
He's gonna make the world full of otakus with figures on their shelves. And that does make me kind of wonder what Pedagus would think of a wall full of figurines. Would he actually be intrigued by it? Petagus pulled a face.
I hate the Superb. They move in the darkness, massacre innocent lives. Though it is also true that without Reserved's help, I wouldn't be alive today. However,
Lord Petagus, Reserved regrets the things that he did in the past.
he does.
Petagus tilted his head. Yes, Laplace deceived him.
Laplace, you say?
Petagus's face clouded over. That's right, Laplace gave him a spear that robbed him of his senses. Reserve was manipulated into dishonoring his entire clan. Worse, he even killed his own family. Now he feels ashamed of himself and hates Laplace for what he did. Petagus listened quietly. That's why he's traveling the world right now, looking for a way to restore his honor to his people. This plan of ours is a way that we can help him in his endeavor. I also owe Reserve a great debt. If you're grateful for his help that he provided you, then I hope that you'll approve of what we're doing as a way to repay him. Petagus folded his arms, closed his eyes, furrowed his brows. After a long silence, he finally said something.
I care not for the Superb and their reputation, but I must honor my debts.
Oh, then?
Do as you like.
So cool. Yeah, there's a little bit of a nugget kind of thrown in here. It's like, yes, we know the story that, yeah, Reserve went up there and fought with them against Laplace. He came in and got a blow in there. It didn't satisfy him. He still hates him. Everybody still hates Laplace that had to fight against him. But specifically here, Zenoba's pointing out the reason why Zenoba's bringing out this figurine and getting his support is because he knows, based on their previous conversations, Reserve saved his life. If it wasn't for Reserve being there, Petagus says that right there, I would be dead. That's big. That is huge. And again, something that is not told in the history books. There's no mention of Reserve. And this right here, and it was kind of a curious question. I was kind of curious, like, what does it matter if Petagus is on board or not? What does it matter if they get his blessing? Now, Rudius kind of mentions something later on, but now Rudius, when he tells the true story of the taking down of Laplace, he can say, Lord Petagus said, Reserve, if it wasn't for him being there, I'd be dead. The legendary hero, Petagus, would be dead if it weren't for the superb Reserve. That is huge in my opinion. Massive. If we don't jump a couple chapters or whatever later on, suddenly they go, Rudius doesn't say something to the effect of, hey, Norn, when you write the story right here, make sure to include what Petagus said. It's huge, and it's so cool. I bet Reserve would love to hear that. I bet he would love to hear that. It would probably brighten up his day to know that, yes, Petagus still recognized that you saved him. It's huge. Petagus wasn't pleased, but he had acquiesced. Now they could sell the figurines without fear of Aramanfi appearing out of nowhere and destroying the shop. Again, why? Why would it matter? Why would Petagus send Aramanfi to destroy your figurines? In fact, if anyone disapproved, they could say that Petagus gave them permission. That's the big thing there. I think that's big, and I got my theories on where that can go. While Rudius had no idea as how much weight his name carried, it could be handy. Zenoba made a persuasive argument. I think there is something to be said here, and this is my theory of where this can go, is that yes, there's so much emphasis on these figurines, the Reserve figurine, even the Roxy figurine, the book, that yes, I do assume that eventually it's going to get to the point where they're going to distribute these figurines with these books. And there's going to be a lot of groups that aren't going to like that. There's going to be a lot of people not liking the idea that, one, there's a demon figurine being sold around places, especially the holy country of Milis. But two, the idea of people rewriting what the history books say. That there was a Superb there, and yes, that possibly putting in there as well, that Superb saved the legendary hero's life. So having Petagus' name on there is actually important. I don't know how that works. Do they have a seal or something? Are they going to get a seal from Petagus and they put on there saying, yes, Petagus said this? That's the question mark. But yes, that is huge to have his name to at least dispute what possibly could come from that. It's just like technically when Nanahoshi was traveling around, she was giving Orsted's name. How was she doing that? Was it because she was pointing going, see that guy way over there? And they look over and they have fear? That's Orsted. There has to be a way that they signify using that name, dropping the name. Zenoba being able to wiggle his way around the topic was impressive. Rudius needed to learn from his example. We appreciate your consideration. Both Rudius and Zenoba bowed their heads. They were one step closer to bringing the figurines to the public. Just a little longer, Reserve. It's so cute that he still remembers Reserved. He still wants to go through with his plan that he made back in Volume 3.
While we're on the topic, Master, why don't you give Lord Petagoose a taste of your skill?
My skill?
Yeah, you know, your special ability to make these figurines out of nothing.
Show me. I am interested in this magic of yours.
Now this disgusting magic, now it's interesting magic. So he's so changed. And all it took was him getting a tough killed. He did his usual creation of earth magic in a generic shape, and then chipped away at each part until it came together. This time he created one around the size of an android. It made it easier to finish quickly. Because yes, he's kind of noticed before this idea, when he's making his actual figurines, it like takes like forever just to make like a centimeter. The quality wasn't the best, but they were simple to construct. He created one with a bird mask over the face in order to be Savarl.
This is Savarl? You're quite dexterous.
Pedagoose's eyes were fixed on him as he worked, showing great interest and observing each step. Reese wondered if he could actually see his mana, or maybe he sensed how it was manipulated. He was the legendary hero after all. He's got him. He has somehow wormed his way into the favor of Petagoose, which makes me wonder if here soon Laplace is going to show up and then Petagoose has to leave. I don't know that Reese is going to be able to hang out with Petagoose very long. Nice. Reese had a regular customer. That's all I could think about is, yes, he's interested. I got myself a customer now. Considering they had no idea where Batagati disappeared to, securing another business opportunity was important. Ariel jumped into the conversation about skilled craftsmen in the Ashra Kingdom. She promised a statue installed once she took the throne. The whole time she rambled, Petagoose looked annoyed. Again, girl, he don't care about this. I'm an outsider looking in, and I can already tell you that he's not going to care. It's like, Ariel, you got to be smart in this. Again, I think it's a lot to do with the fact that she's used to be people being into this kind of stuff. She's used to being around people that like this stuff. And again, used to people liking her charm. The whole time she rambled, Petagoose looked annoyed.
Asura's craftsmen only create works that satisfy the vanity of their nobility. There is nothing interesting about their art at all.
What? Ariel was struck speechless. He hammered the nail in the coffin more as he continued.
If you truly become king, will you not have more important things to do than create a statue of me?
Well,
Or is misappropriating the people's taxes to live in your luxuries your definition of being a king?
Damn! Just burned bad. Somebody call an ambulance. Get her to the sick bay quick. Oh, that was oof. I almost feel sorry for her, but she's walking right into this. It's one of those things where I feel sorry for Ariel right now because I like her. At the same time, she's walking into this. It's like no matter how much you can pat somebody on the head and be like, it's all right, dude, you're doing all right. And if they keep running to that doorway, it's like eventually you're like, dude, I can only sway you around that door so many times. No, not at all. My apologies. I spoke out of turn. Please forget I said anything. Yeah. Backpedal. She dropped her gaze, trying to backpedal. It was hard to believe that she was normally overflowing with charisma and confidence. Still, Pedagoose's cold rebuff was uncalled for. Did he hate her that much? No, I think he hates nobility. He hates royalty. He hates these people. He doesn't like that they're obsessed with the stupidest things. He has a noble cause that he's always focused on. He built himself up. He got stronger, and he's focused on something. Ariel's focused on the throne, and focused on making a statue for him. He doesn't care. And yes, the entire time she's here, she's doing this. Of course he doesn't like her.
Wait, Ariel Anamoy Asura.
He called out to her as she tried to sink away. His oppressive gaze bore into her.
What does a true king possess?
Well, they're wise. Listen to their cabinet ministers, and don't forget their position in society.
Wrong. The Asuran king I knew was a true king, but he was nothing like what you described.
Which king?
The king who took the throne in the wake of the Laplace War. My sworn friend, Gaunus Frian Asura.
I don't think they ever mentioned that. That is another friend of his. Reese heard of King Gaunus before. He was the last surviving member of the Asuran royal family after the Laplace War. He became a great ruler that brought the country together after it was ravaged by the conflict. The fighting took its toll on the land, but his skills as a monarch kept it from descending into a civil war. This is one of those things right here where it's like Rudius says, the history book says this. And what Petagoose is about to say is like, yeah, I don't trust your history books, Rudius. Just don't bother saying what the history book says. I have heard that King Gaunus was a great ruler. I doubt I could ever follow in his footsteps.
He was not great. He was a coward who hated conflict and was always running away. He couldn't study to save his life, possessed no skill in battle, and he was always sneaking about to some pub to ogle the women there.
Again, the history books, they're not going to write about this stuff. They're going to write how great he is. Remember about that great king.
He had no ambition to take the throne, but he had the most important quality a ruler can have. That, I believe, is what made him a true king.
What quality is that?
If you can bring me that answer yourself, then I will give you my support.
Chance. Ariel, you got your chance. You better figure it out quick. So this is the trial that he intended to give her, to test to see if she was deserving or not of his assistance. The most important quality a king can have. Ariel stroked her chin, staring at the table, probably trying to remember the stories of King Gaunus. He sounded like an idiot to Rudius, but maybe a genius in disguise, similar to Nobunaga.
Rudius, what do you think?
I'm afraid I have no idea how to answer that question, given I'm not royalty.
What a dull reply. You don't have to contemplate the answer. Just say whatever comes to mind.
It's like,
Stop being boring, boy. Just answer the stupid question.
don't think about it too hard. Tall order. A king, huh? What was a king supposed to be in the first place? They appeared in fantasy stories, but did they actually do anything? They were at the top, a country's ruler, similar to a prime minister. To be honest, Reese had no interest in politics. Even in his previous life, all he did was look at how people reacted online about politicians and followed their lead. He's like one of those people, you just go online and you're like, oh, everybody's mad about this. I'm mad too. That's what everybody says. Might as well be true, right? This has like this many likes. Must be true. The state of our politics now. Personally, I would like a ruler who puts themselves in the shoes of a common folk, rather than someone who relies on their own abilities.
Ah,
Pedagogus excelled, seemingly impressed by the bland answer.
Ariel, this boy just gave me a much better reply than you. This little boy over here, smarter than you.
Reese followed up, but a person cannot be a king if they only think about the people.
It's not as if Gaunus only ever thought about his people either. However, those around him did lend him their help, and he was able to suppress the potential for an uprising in Asura.
So you're saying that a king's own abilities are meaningless?
Is that what you think? Is a country who makes an imbecile their ruler a good country in your eyes?
This guy's so no nonsense. So great. Oh. Ariel's expression contorted with sadness and frustration. What was Pedagogus trying to get her to say? Reus didn't know. Not that he needed to. He had no designs on any throne. Perhaps Pedagogus was actually trying to test her determination and character. Maybe there wasn't a correct answer. Still, is a king so great it's worth going through all this trouble to become one?
You should think long and hard about this, Ariel Anamoi Asura. Now then, it is late. Why don't we return to the fortress?
After the tea party, Reus would long remember the way that Ariel looked as she went back inside. Shoulders slumped forward as she shuffled along with Luke close at her heels. She's defeated. KO! I do feel bad for Ariel, but at the same time, she's walking into this stuff constantly. Okay, if I was Ariel, my suggestion would have been, when he asked, what is it you want? Like, this thing keeps coming up in this idea of, like, Pedagogus is trying to figure out what's her deal. She wants his support, and she's doing a terrible job of presenting things that he's gonna want. He doesn't want, again, all this crap that she's offering. He doesn't care. Whenever there's a question of what is pushing you, Ariel, I was screaming inside when I was reading this part. I'm like, Ariel, just say what Derek Redbat said. And this is the frustrating thing that I'm having right now with Ariel, is that I don't really know her anymore. We got the setup in the, holy crap, what is this, like volume 4 or 5? Way back when we first presented Fitz and Ariel and all that kind of stuff. There was this it was the angel falling from the sky or whatever chapter when yes, Fitz first arrives, Sylphie first arrives. There's this conversation that's being had about Derek Radbat wanting her to go for the throne. This idea that the kingdoms are dying. This kingdom, Asura, is going to die. Yes, you're all enjoying your cake. You're enjoying sleeping around with all the maids. But eventually, these other countries that are building up power, they're going to come to destroy you. This country is getting too comfortable. They're drunk off their success. And that's not going to last. Derek Radbat was like, Ariel, people will listen to you. Please, take the crown. And she's like, no, I don't have anything to do with it. I don't want that crown. I'll get myself killed. I'm not going to do that. Derek Redbat, in his dying breath, said, please, princess, promise me you will save this country. She accepted it. Cut scene, she's suddenly going after the crown. So obviously what happened to Derek Redbat, the promise that she made to him was what initially fired her up. I don't think she's done all of this. Like every night she goes to bed and she's like, sorry, Derek, I'm trying. I'm going to fulfill that wish. I think at some point either she got caught up in it and there was no turning back, or she realized when she went out to those meetings, she went out to those greetings and all that, the meetings and whatnot with all the people, out with the soldiers, and everybody was enamored by her, and they loved her. And I think even also when she went to escape, she started to realize these are the people that I want to serve. I want to help these people. But I think she's been dealing so much with so many people of high power, people that don't care about the common folks, that she's forgotten that. I wonder if at some point there's going to be a realization point for her to realize, oh, I've kind of forgotten why I'm doing this. Because I've been talking with these rich nobles and royalty too much. Right here, I think if she said, I am trying to fulfill the desire of my servant. And when I was fulfilling that desire, I discovered what it was to be a leader. I discovered the people. I discovered those that were hurting. I talked with those people. They showered me with praise. They said they wanted to follow me. They took a knee to me. And I want to do right for them. That, I think, would have convinced him. Because yes, the question mark here is, what is Pedagogus saying? Who is this king? King Ghana, whatever the hell his name is. I forgot his name already. King Gaunus. What is King Gaunus? What was special about him? Off the top of my head, the assumption is, it might be cliche, as he was the king that didn't want to be king. It's typically a good one. When you have somebody that doesn't want to be in leadership, that's a good one. That's the idea of the president that doesn't want to be a president. That's a pretty good sign when a king does not want to be a king, because they're not interested in what they're going to gain from it. When you want to be king, you want to gain something from it. When you don't want to be king, you just are there because you know something needs to be fixed. And thus you're going to be focused on that and all this other stupid stuff. You're not going to be focused on royalty. You're not going to be focused on those of power. Probably what Gaunus did. Because yes, when it technically makes sense, because when Pedagogus was describing him, he's like, yeah, he's this guy who hated conflict. He was always running away. He couldn't study to save his life. He didn't have any skill in battle. He was constantly trying to sneak out and go to a pub and ogle women. But why was he a ruler? Because he didn't want that nation to fall apart. He didn't want the crown. He didn't want to be king. He wanted to save his country. I think that's the answer. I think that's probably what he said. What quality is that? Quality of somebody who doesn't want to be king. My guess, though. Anyhow, I really did like Chapter 9. I think Chapter 9 was super good. I just love the stuff around Rizurd. A little bit more insight into Pedagogus and his respect for Rizurd, to want to honor the fact that he saved his life, which again, I think is going to be really huge when they do go out and sell the figurines. They're going to want to have Pedagus's name. Again, technically, in case Millis decides to go after them, they'll at least have the legendary hero's name to be on it. We need to burn these figurines that are in these stores, but there's a problem, sir. What's the problem? Pedagus's seals on them. We can't burn them, or we might anger Pedagus. Not that Pedagus is gonna run after people or anything like that. But yeah, super good stuff. I like seeing Pedagus kind of interested in Rudius's powers now, even though it's mostly around the figurines. Possibly gonna get some lessons from Pedagus, which would be really, really cool. A lot of cool stuff. Like I said, really, really good chapter. Really good chapter. But yeah, I think I covered everything. But that is I'm messing with my screen here. That is chapter. Was it chapter 9 or 8? Chapter 9. Yeah, chapter 9, because 10 is the big one. So thanks guys for dropping by. I hope you guys enjoyed this Mushoku Mondays. Really great set of chapters. A lot of fun, cool action stuff in the previous one. Not much to talk about, but a lot of cool stuff in chapter 9. And like I said, going in chapter 10. And yes, spoiler for those that are not aware, Turning Point 4. And it's supposed to be big. So again, I'm going to try to do a recording for those that weren't here for the beginning of this. I'm going to try to do a live recording. I'm not doing a live. I can't watch chat, and plus I fumble too much with my words. I want to do a live record read of it. For those that don't know, typically what I do is I copy from a PDF into a Word document, and then I splice down the read to where it's a lot easier for me to flow it into a recording. So I'm technically reading it before I do a Mushoku Monday recording. Additionally, I'll like to add notes and stuff like that. What I'm going to do for chapter 9 is I'm going to turn on the recording, just open a PDF, and start reading. And we'll see where it goes, because like I said, it's Turning Point 4. I've heard people say there's a chapter possibly in this volume that is, they wanted me to live read. So that's the next best thing is doing that. And so next time you guys come around, the next Mushoku Mondays, hopefully you guys enjoy that. I don't know if hopefully it's not a long chapter. I don't know. Don't say anything in the chat. I don't care. I don't know. I don't need to know. Hopefully I'm actually gonna record that before you guys even hear this part. Because thankfully I'm like 2 weeks out now. I'm getting way ahead of my Mushoku Mondays, which is great because it gives me freedom for other stuff. But I need to take a break before I record chapter 10 because my throat is screwed up. Blame Arknight's Farron and recording this and the other Mushoku Mondays, doing Moore's voice, doing Atofe's voice, doing Pedagoose's voice. Pedagoose's voice is easy to do. But hopefully that'll work out. Hopefully that'll be fun. I'm actually terrified of reading it, by the way. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to. We'll see how it goes, though. But as per usual, thank you guys so much for dropping by. Thanks so much for everybody in the premiere chat. Hey, chat, hope you guys are doing well. Hit the like button before you leave. I'm sure you love this Mushoku Monday, so you want to hit that like button. But additionally, I greatly appreciate everybody's support monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that kind of stuff. It keeps this stuff going. And yes, all the kind words that keeps me going. It fuels me. But yes, until the next Mushoku Mondays, y'all take care.
And he was able to suppress the potential.
My throat is... To test to see if she was deserving... She promised a statue installed once she got thrown.
Lord Pedagoose, reserve requests.
Oh. It seemed barbaric to be... That was what made him...
Of course I am.
Ooh, the voices. As he walked around the garden, he spotted a table with 3 people. Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another Trek the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novels. Black blood came